Hey, welcome back again, or maybe for the first time. I am Jared Johnson, the Jared J. Joining me today is a first-time guest to the channel. She's a lead teacher at Green Oaks Education and Support Incorporated. If you haven't heard of it, go back and watch episode 43, where I interview Lee Weedman and Jean Jewell of Green Oaks Education and Support. Please join me in welcoming to the channel for the first time, Karley Pettiet!
That is me.
That is you. I realized it as soon as I saw you. Actually, that's not true. The first time I saw you, I didn't know your name.
Really?
Yeah, well, when, on my first day, when you came into my field of vision, I didn't just have the knowledge of, there's Karley Pettiet.
That is the Karley Pettiet.
I had to learn that as I went along,
and
yes.
you have learned it very quickly, I do have to say. You're really good with names.
Well, thank you. I make it a point. A lot of people don't know this, and I may never have told you this. I make it a point to try and address everybody by their first and last name, because a lot of people have asked me, like, why do you do that? Like, she hasn't said this, but I'll use her as an example.
I've always questioned it.
Okay, well, we'll see now she's going to find something out. Some people will say, you don't have to call me Karley Pettiet. You could just say Karley.
Yeah.
So if it genuinely makes somebody uncomfortable, I'll try not to do it. But my reason for doing it is I want everybody to know that you're important enough for me to remember your whole name. Even if you're okay with being called Karley, here's my thing. There's no one else like you. There's not another one of you. There's 8 billion of us on the planet. No telling how many billions that came before. When God created you, He created one of you. Mm-hmm. You're that special. You're that unique. And if you're that special to Him, you're worth me remembering your full name. So you're not just Karley, some lady with long brown hair that I saw down the hallway once or whatever. You're Karley Pettiet. Your last name is part of who you are, and that's important. So I always tell people, if you don't remember anything else or learn anything else from knowing me, remember that I care enough to know your full name and address you by it every time we meet, every time I speak to you, because that's how important you are to me.
That's pretty awesome, because I do have to say, when I was in high school, everybody labeled me with my brother. So they always called me Pettiet. They never called me by my first name. They always just said last name. So
right.
I was always like, it's Karley.
Right. I'm Pettiet.
So
but
I get that.
Yeah. Okay. So
awesome.
that kind of plays into it. And I didn't even know
absolutely.
that, but you know how that feels already there.
Absolutely.
So, okay, cool. So we've known each other for about 9 months, and she never knew that about me. We're learning things already as we go. So as I said, Karley, in case y'all did miss some of the other episodes, and you may have caught it by that conversation, we do work at the same place, a place called Green Oaks Education and Support. It is a Christian school for individuals with special needs or learning disabilities, and we'll get into that a little bit more as we go. But there's something else about Karley that we've talked about a little bit, so I'm going to start off with this. How old were you when you started playing basketball?
How old was I when I started playing basketball? Since I could remember, honestly.
Oh, wow.
I kind of grew up with it in my family. I have older cousins that I played in select basketball with. I want to say I started like 3rd or 4th grade.
Okay.
Like super, super early on. Or 2nd grade, I would say. Just like very
early elementary school,
yes.
You were interested in...
Yes,
okay,
absolutely.
wow.
So growing up, summers, I was full-time playing basketball. I was never not playing basketball until about junior high, I would say. So is that 11 or 12? I don't know.
Depends on where you are in junior high. 11 or 14 or 11.
So early on in junior high is when I started just doing like the sports at the junior high.
Like competitive for the school.
Yes.
So, okay.
So yeah, I've always played it.
Very cool. And the way I found out that she had played basketball, we have a basketball goal on the playground at our school.
We do. We use that a lot.
Yes, we do. And I observed her. We're the playground full of people, and I was out there keeping an eye on the students in my room, and I was just looking around, and I just happened to look right at the right moment. We don't have a 3-point line, but she launched one from what was indubitably 3-point range, ripped it as naturally as me taking a breath, and I was like, dang. Like, I'd never thought about that. When I saw her rip that, I was like, that's not the first 3-pointer she's ever shot. So I asked her when she was walking by, and she was like, yeah, I played it. I was like, you had to. I was like, don't tell me you didn't play basketball when you were younger. Yes. That everything about that, like, you can tell, like, if I hit a 3-pointer, you'll go, okay, he just somehow hit it. She looked so good, form and everything.
So
I was
fresh,
like,
so clean.
yeah, she looked so good and so fresh and so clean. I was like, she kind of knows what she's doing there.
Absolutely.
So, who would you say were some of your favorite basketball players growing up, or anybody that maybe like influenced your game?
Oh gosh.
Yeah. We know your cousins kind of got you into playing, but I'm talking like on a professional level, what WNBA or NBA, like who were some of your favorites or maybe influenced you?
I really liked Kobe Bryant. I'm at early ages, but I would say like more
He's not a bad one.
Junior high or high school. I was mainly looking at like Steph Curry.
Okay.
Not a fan of LeBron James, I do have to say. But
let's go ahead and get that on record. Yeah.
But
I didn't even bring his name into the conversation, but let's go ahead and just be clear. She's not a fan of LeBron James. No, okay.
But yeah, Steph Curry, I would say, is my I look up to a lot, for sure.
And he is 6'2", so even though you're taller than I am, he's got a little bit of height on you. So if he were here, you would look up a little bit.
Yeah, just
to
a little
him.
bit. So actually looking up to him.
Yeah, so in a quite literal sense.
Yep.
I would say he's only the deadliest shooter I've ever seen. I mean, I don't want to make the whole episode about Steph Curry, although we could. I think he's not only the best 3-point shooter in terms of, yes, he's got the record for most 3-pointers in a career, so it's kind of hard to argue that he's not. But if you watch the way that the guy gets his shots, most of the great historical 3-point shooters are typically great at catch and shoot, coming off screens, and that's fine.
Yeah.
He's not only good at that, he can do it off the dribble. He can break you down and then back up and shoot 3. He can get you off balance, pass it, reset, catch it, and he's got such a quick release.
He can fall to the ground, get back up, and just chunk it up, and there it is.
Or shoot from 45 feet away when the shot clock's not winding down, just because he can.
Yeah.
And he's one of the few guys that can take a shot from excessively deep when he doesn't need to. And the coach, Steve Kerr, doesn't even bat an eye.
Nope.
If Curry misses a shot from that deep, who cares? Because you know he might have hit it.
Amazing
he might hit the next one, so you don't even care. That, like anybody else in the league, be like, you're coming out of the game. Yep. You're going to the bench. What in the world are you doing thinking shooting that deep?
I'm not Steph Curry.
With him, it's just like, okay, because that's a high percentage shot. That's actually a high percentage shot when he does it. So you don't even get mad when he does that.
That's pretty crazy.
Okay, so, and I just recently found out you also ran track in high school.
I did. Yes, I was not the biggest fan of it.
Oh.
But
So do I have to ask which sport you liked better, or is that my answer?
At my school, it was kind of, if you wanted to play basketball, you were kind of fed into running cross country as well.
Interesting.
I don't know.
Was it an actual requirement or just?
Just, you had to at least run one meet is what we had to do. Which was our,
so it was at least a partial requirement. Okay,
so
interesting.
It was that, and I think it really just came to, my brother was a really big track star. He went to college for track.
And since, you're a Pettiet,
it's just in the line. So
you're expected to for that reason.
I could not do hurdles. I was always deathly afraid of not being able to jump over a hurdle.
So was it that you tried and weren't good, or you just
it was
a psychological, like I can't do it?
Thing.
Okay.
Yep. I just could not. My brother was really good at that, and I watched him. I cheered him on for that. I was like, you do that. That's your sport.
You go ahead.
Yeah. So I mainly did. I did some long distance. I did some sprints here and there, but I quit my junior year, I believe, and I was like, I just can't do it. My hip was out of line and stuff. So just more health stuff. And I was like, I'm just going to focus on basketball because that's what I've grown up
That's what
doing.
you actually liked better anyway.
Yeah.
But you would say that your time running cross country and track has really helped you a lot. For example, if you're at Walmart in a hurry and it's crowded, you can just zip past people and get to what you need.
I have the speed for that. Absolutely.
Yeah. So it was still beneficial. Whether you enjoyed it
Learning
in the moment
the
or
techniques
not.
has helped me throughout my life, you know?
As many things in life are, like, why am I doing this? And then later you realize, that helped prepare me for something else.
You never know.
Now, would you agree with me that taking a shot with one's foot on the 3-point line is the most useless shot in all of basketball?
I would have to say, I would have to agree. Yeah.
Okay.
I would.
Yeah, I don't have this conversation with a lot of people, but when I see someone do that, it genuinely irritates me.
It does.
So, like, if you don't have the presence of mind and the situational awareness to know that you could cost your team a game, you could cost a championship if it's in the right situation.
And I have learned that the hard way.
Yep. I feel like I want to hear about this now.
I think it was, I can't remember what year it was, but it was when I played select basketball. And we were down by 2, and I was the shooting guard. And I just came off a screen, and my toe was touching the line.
Oh, my gosh.
And I made it, and we were cheering. They were so happy, everything like that. And the ref was like, nope, it's a 2-pointer.
Wow.
So we tied, and then we went into overtime. And we won it, but it could have been...
Okay, at least you won in overtime, but you had to go to overtime. But it could have been a huge, you could have sealed it right there.
Absolutely.
Wow. So that illustrates my point. Again, we'd never discussed that, but I literally, when I watch basketball and I see someone do that, I'm just like, what is wrong with you? Now, don't get me wrong. If you come off a screen, you're at 3-point range, you go to shoot and the defense closes. Sometimes a pump fake, a dribble in is the best way to. Absolutely. I get it sometimes, but if it's a situation like you're describing, and you're open and you just don't pay attention to where your foot is. I've never coached basketball, probably never will, but if I did, my players would know because
the adrenaline is high.
You're going to be running some laps if you don't pay attention. You have to be aware. Because also, if you make that type of mental mistake, what else might you not be paying attention to?
Absolutely.
There's that as well. So it just all kind of
luckily it was just
compounds.
It was just a select basketball game. If it was like a state game, I would understand it.
You would have been you would have
felt
if you'd have been a state game and y'all lost in overtime. You might be like, Jared, shut up. We're not talking about this. Stop the camera. I didn't agree to this line of questioning. Yeah, it'd be a little bit tougher to swallow. Absolutely. Now, you didn't run track your senior year of high school. No. And you did not play basketball in college.
I did not.
Do you ever have any regrets about not doing either one of those on the college level?
I would say no. I think learning from where my brother was at, he was a college athlete as well. I think it just overwhelmed his life a little bit more. Where he didn't get to have I don't want to say like the fun college life, but he also didn't have a job.
His experience was totally different than it would have been.
His social life was completely not there. So I think I did what I needed to do for myself. So I don't really regret it. I played intramural basketball in college. It was super fun.
So you still had fun with the game of basketball. It didn't impact you academically and socially the same way. So
So I
so
don't
there you go.
I don't
That's good. I mean, there's no right or wrong answer to that question because for some people, they make that their life.
Yep.
And if you go on to play professionally, whatever, then it was worth it. But if you don't play professionally, then it negatively impacts over other areas of your college experience. Then you do have to go,
absolutely,
should I have done this or not? So, now you don't even have to.
I think, like, with my senior year, we had some experiences. Basically, I was suspended for a couple games because I went on a vacation trip during basketball season. So just that experience of, like, basketball really isn't life, or sports aren't really life. It's more of family, quality time, and
as much as you love sports, there's more aspects to life than just that.
So it took a toll, not a toll on me, but I just saw it as a bigger picture of like, I don't need this. I almost quit my senior year. I really did. Yeah. Over that whole situation. So I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to live my life in college. So we did it.
And that's, like you say, if you're not making a living doing it long term, you sometimes have to make that decision of
absolutely,
how far do I keep making my life center around this to an extent.
And I saw the sport as fun, more of a sport, having fun with friends, teammates, and stuff like that. And just for the memories, not as a job. In a way. So when I started seeing it as it was more of a job, I couldn't spend time with family or stuff like that. Taking that aspect of things, I was like, all right.
So would you say the most valuable things you gained from it was the teamwork and just knowing how to, because like in any job, you're going to work with a lot of people with different personalities, different work ethics, different backgrounds. Your basketball team is probably the same way. Despite the personalities, you're going to have some girls that are better at rebounding, blocking shots, who can't really handle the ball. That's okay. Use them where they're best.
Yep.
You're going to have your shooters. You're going to have your defensive players. You're going to have your point guard. So you've got to find a way to make all of that work. And then you got a coach that you hope that you connect with. And so, yeah,
that's
all
those.
People
just think of it as a sport, and it's a lot.
People think you're just out there running and playing sometimes. When you put all those pieces together, and I'll give you this scenario. I'm just going to make this up as I go, but let's say you're a sophomore, you start JV, you don't play a lot of varsity, but you're the starting shooting guard for JV. Part of the way through your sophomore year, the leading scorer on the team blows out her knee, you get thrown in the starting lineup. Now you've got to adapt to new teammates, new pressure. You might be having to shoot a 3 to win a game. And when you were like, why am I not playing JV? You're suddenly out there getting that much more.
That's kind of crazy because that was my storyline.
Oh, really?
Yes.
This is almost hilarious. I'm just walking in. Let's hear it.
So freshman year, I was on JV with all the girls that I grew up playing basketball with.
Right.
So like basketball. And
so you got a level of familiarity with your teammates.
Absolutely. And so when it came to playoffs, I got moved up to varsity. And we got to play a lot more that year. It was just super, super special because we got to play a lot more than any other fishies was what they called us. Got to play in the playoffs. So that was that. And then he decided to keep me at this JV level my sophomore year. But he also kind of went back and forth just to see how I would adapt and play with the other
acclimating
players.
You to varsity along the way.
Because we had so many guards on varsity. And he didn't want to bench me because, I'm just going to say I was a pretty good player. So
She was a pretty good player.
Very good player.
So she still got a pretty good 3-point shot, I can say.
He kept me on JV, and then it was a situation where we had injuries left and right. And he was like, all right, it's your time. Yep.
Okay. So, I made up a hypothetical scenario that you've actually lived through. Yep. But, that's the type of thing I'm talking about. You've got, as a teenager, maybe you hadn't had a job yet. You hadn't had a lot of responsibility. Now you're thrust into that. Yeah. You can learn a lot from that. And even how much you reflect on it or how much you think it's affected you, I bet that has impacted you quite a lot.
Absolutely, yeah.
Informing where you are right now. Interesting. Okay. So at what point did you know you wanted to be a teacher, and what factors led to that decision?
Oh, if you asked my 18-year-old self, senior year of high school, what I wanted to be when I grew up, I said not a teacher.
So not only were you not quite sure,
I was adamant.
Not a teacher.
I'm not a teacher.
Wow. Why were you so adamant at that age about that?
I think it really had to do. My brother comes back into the conversation.
Hello, Karley's brother, who I don't know, Mr. Pettiet.
He was the troublemaker kid, I would say, in his high school, junior high years.
So you're like, I don't want to be a teacher, so I don't want to have to deal with people like my brother and his friends.
Well, but they labeled me as kind of connected the dots of I was.
Oh, you're a Pettiet.
Brock Pettiet's brother or sister.
I was about to say, hold on now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I just got a lot of backlash of that. I had to see.
You walk into a room and your teachers are like, "We already don't like you because
they never gave me a
Pettiet."
chance. So I think it was just having that experience.
A little bit of animosity towards. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
That's so interesting though, especially when we're teenagers and even as adults. Sometimes we gravitate towards or away from a career based on the person we've seen do it. If you've had a bad experience with teachers, you don't want to be one. If you've been pulled over and you think you didn't deserve it, you might be like, well, I don't like all cops. I know people like that.
It's just your
experience. This person's bad, or I don't want to be that. And it's usually a certain person that you've met that does that job has turned you one way or another.
Absolutely.
That's pretty interesting.
Kind of moving down the line, I went to college. I have a kinesiology degree.
Yes, I do remember you telling me that.
And I went to PTA school in Austin. I was my first, I think, semester there. And
so when you say PTA school, you mean learning to do parent-teacher associations, right?
No. Physical
therapy assistants? Okay.
Yes. There you go. You got it. So I was in PTA school. I actually worked at a PT clinic as well, getting firsthand experiences of all of that. And it was just kind of a God moment of When I was in college in San Angelo, I was a caregiver to a girl with intellectual disabilities.
Oh, okay.
And I also have an aunt with Down syndrome.
Oh, so okay.
I've always kind of been around it. And it was just like a whole 2 weeks span of, we had a patient that had intellectual disabilities. And
is that who you end up becoming the caregiver for?
No, it was just a random person that I didn't know, but his caregiver that would drop him off, one day she came to me, she's like, can I talk to you real quick? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. And she just kind of broke down, and she's like, I've never seen him so happy, so like open and not angry of having to come to PT. And he's just a lot more, he has a happy soul now. And then she was like, you just work super well, and you need to do something with this.
Wow.
So I teared up.
You're like,
I was like,
wasn't
wow.
expecting that today.
Yeah. So
wow.
I went home. I called my best friend actually, and she was saying that she was going to the teacher side. She was also doing like the PT route.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, I saw this like alternative teacher certification program online that you can get your certification like that. So I just kept praying about it, I was talking to my dad about it a little bit, and then kind of going back and forth. And that's kind of how it took. I was like, I don't think I want this. Like, I would like to do like PTA with people with intellectual disabilities.
Okay.
But I felt like I had a little bit more of a purpose, more hands-on.
Yeah.
That stuff. So I kind of took that role.
That's actually really interesting. And the lady who said that to you,
so random.
Yeah.
I never came into having a conversation because that wasn't my role. It was the PT's role.
Gotcha.
I was just a PT tech.
Right,
and
right.
So she just asked. She was like, can I talk to you real quick? And I said, absolutely. And she told me that. So
never know how someone's going to impact your life or how you're going to impact somebody else's life.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we miss a lot of those opportunities.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, I say all the time, nearly every day of our lives, we have an opportunity to make a difference in somebody else's life. Sad part is most of us miss a lot of those opportunities because we just don't see them, or we don't think that what we have to say is going to really make that big a difference. So I think a lot of us miss those opportunities because we either just don't see them or we think, nah, like I just don't, it's not going to matter.
Yeah.
And then sometimes a statement like that could set somebody on a course that they need to be on. Wow.
Yeah. I also like had some people in my ear, like kind of, excuse me, some friends and family just saying like, no, you need to do more than just teaching. Like, you don't need to do this at the start of college. So I just kind of kept going to the route, excuse me, that was approved by those people, I would say. And then it's just kind of funny. It was a full circle moment of like, no, I'm going to do this because I know I have a purpose, and that is my purpose to do.
Very cool.
So.
Well, that's a good segue into my next question then. Tell us about when you accepted Jesus as your Savior. Like, how old were you? Who helped lead you to Christ?
It's a long story.
Okay. Well, we've got plenty of time.
I would say kind of my first instinct of, I grew up in the church when my parents were together. And when they separated, it was a little bit more difficult of trying to find, I guess, rides to church. I wanted to make it a point. I wanted to keep going.
About how old were you at the time? Do you remember?
When they divorced, it was when I was in 6th or 7th grade.
Oh, okay.
So I was probably like 13 or so.
12, 13, somewhere there.
Something like that. So I would catch rides to church. But I just laugh at this because it wasn't that moment, but you'll understand. I accepted Jesus Christ when I was, I want to say, in 5th grade or so. Okay. Because it was the thing to do. You know what I'm saying?
Did you have other friends that, okay.
Yeah, I saw all of my friends do it. It was when I was at church camp, I believe. And then I came back and I told my mom that I wanted to be baptized because that was the thing to do as well. So I was little, didn't really know all of that. I think
so many of us had those experiences.
Absolutely.
Like, I was 7 years old and, like, I did understand, but I hear so many stories like that, and it's understandable. You got a young child who doesn't quite understand the truth of who Jesus is. Like, you know about Jesus, but you see your friends doing this, and you just think, okay,
I'm going to do that.
Yeah, and not to be funny, but I think a lot of people, there's probably more people than we'll ever realize that have that same experience. Anyway, but yeah, go ahead.
So I did that. I got baptized. My parents split up. Luckily I had those cousins that were around. They went to the same church as I did, so I went with them as much as I could. I try to make it a point to keep going. Of course, I had my moments of I wish I had my family to go to church with, and just seeing all the families together. It was just super, super hard, but I had a really good support system on that end. My pastor, Brian, one year, it was when I was in college, and I hadn't gone to church. I was living a very sinful life. And he just called me. He was like, hey, we need a lot of volunteers. It's called Refuge at my church back at home. It's basically a weekend. People take kids into their homes.
Yeah,
and they
like
stay
a discipleship weekend, basically. Yeah, our church does that.
They just do worship, fun games, and stuff like that. And he was like, we need a volunteer during our rec time. Do you want to do it? I said, absolutely. It's just super weird because I haven't talked to him in years.
I was about to say,
and
how
he
long
knew.
had it been? And you had been like actively not going to church for what, a year or more at this time?
I would say like 2.
Okay.
2 years, yeah. So it was just weird because he knew my storyline of what happened with my parents, some of my brother's stuff. He just knew a lot of background, so he really understood. And he was like, we want you here. Come to volunteer, and then you get a free dinner, and then you got worship. So just come on.
Okay.
So I went. I usually don't do that because I'm very, what is it called? I'm an introvert.
Oh, okay.
I do not do things by myself. I always have to go with someone. Does that make sense?
It does, yes. Anxiety. You're like, okay, I don't just use, I can't quite relate because as y'all may guess, I'm not an introvert. But I'm aware that a lot of people are.
Yes.
Karley probably looks at me as like, I don't understand you either. It's okay.
Yeah. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go. I asked all my friends, and they're like, no, I'm busy. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to go.
So you still went, yeah.
So I went. I just saw so many like old high school friends that I haven't seen in a while. I really distanced myself.
And this is a church you grew up in, though, right? And then your pastor. Okay.
Yeah, and I really distanced myself for the situation that I was in at this time from anyone that was around me. I just kind of, it was just me type stuff. So it was. So you
really
cool.
took the introvert to another level at that time. Okay.
Yeah, it was not a good time.
Gotcha.
So I showed up, saw everybody. We went to the worship, and I sat by myself. That was a huge thing as well. I sat by myself, and it was a sermon about just trusting in the Lord, I believe. And if you need to cry for help or just anything, it was just that type of sermon. It was years ago, and I'm older now, so I can't really remember.
Yeah, I'm older now than I was years ago,
but it was basically just saying, stepping out of your comfort zone, allowing the Lord to maneuver you through your life, just trusting in Him in anything that you do, not taking things into your own hands, in which I used to do a lot.
That's natural for all of us, yeah. We all had to kind of give up some control.
So, and it was just a worship song that I kept hearing on the radio, but I wouldn't be going to church, and I heard it in the worship, and I just broke down, and I just started crying.
Yeah.
I was like, I am giving my life to the Lord again. So I went and saw Brian, and he just prayed for me, and I got baptized that next week.
And you felt like it was legitimate
Absolutely,
this time. Like, this isn't just the thing to do. God's really broken through to me.
Yeah. Okay. And it was a full circle moment. Of course, having Brian, my pastor, that was there the entire time. Just having him there through my college years as well. Saying my testimony to the camera, because before you get baptized at my church, you say your testimony on how you got there and stuff, and kind of like a little snippet of your life. And we were just crying. It was just a whole circle moment, and we were just very happy. And he's awesome.
Yeah.
That guy. So
the awesome thing about, the whole story is awesome. So thank you for sharing that. Yeah. But one thing that I heard as I was listening, and whether you've thought about it in these terms or not, I don't know. You grew up in church, walked off the path. You had to feel like in that moment at that service where you broke down crying, you may not have resonated this in that moment, but there's a moment of God saying to you, Karley, I've always been here.
Yeah.
You've been walking away from me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still pursuing you.
Absolutely.
I'm not going anywhere but towards you.
Yeah.
I want you in my grasp. Wow, that's
and
that's
a
awesome.
little bit more of, I was actually talking to Lauren about my testimony the other day or a couple weeks ago, but I always, and everybody says, how did you end up how you are? With a lot of this, like the family stuff, my brother just kind of went off the deep end and stuff, and I think it's mainly Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
It really has to do with that and pulling me back in, saving me left and right.
Just that relentless pursuit of, I created you for a relationship.
Yeah.
I'm going to pursue this.
Yeah. And I always have a little bit, my default, I would say, is when things get hard and I don't have any control over it, that's when I start pushing.
Okay.
Yes. And it was just crazy because in that moment, there were so many things going on in my life wrong.
Yeah.
And he was like, I'm here.
Wow. So. And sometimes when we try to take too much control, we get to a moment when we realize we're not in control at all.
It worse.
Yes. I've tried so hard to control everything that I don't have a hold of any of it.
Yep.
It's like I'm trying to have such a tight grip on so many things that I've either crushed them or they slip through my fingers. I'm not in control of any of it.
Nope.
The harder I try to be, the more I careen out sometimes. So
absolutely.
that's an awesome thing to get to the point of realizing I can't do all this, but I don't have to.
Yeah.
Because you're here with me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So when you first in college decided, okay, you're going into teaching, you actually taught at public school for how long?
A year.
Just 1 year? Okay.
Yep.
We don't have to say the school. That's up to you. But what was... So kind of a compound question. What was your experience in public school, and then how did you find out about Green Oaks and decide that that's where you wanted to be?
My experience with the public school was very... I like to compare the public school to Green Oaks being heaven.
Oh, wow.
I really do.
And so we know what the other place is if Green Oaks is heaven.
Yes, the quite opposite. But it was a lot. It was a lot more behaviors of what we see at our school of neglect from children, parents just not caring. Let's see, I got hit, I got choked, flung up against a wall, and it was, it's a lot. It has a lot of kind of trauma to it, so if certain situations happen at Green Oaks, I kind of get a little bit more anxious, but we don't really have those moments.
I was just say, thankfully, it's not quite to that extent. I mean, anything can happen, but
absolutely. Yeah, so just a very toxic environment, staff-wide, and my employees there were tearing me down because I was younger, prettier, I like to say, and there were a lot.
You heard that, folks. You heard it first. She was
just
prettier than all of her coworkers.
And they were tearing me down. I didn't have a support system. I felt like I was.
You just felt like you were isolated, and like you were against, like the world was against you there. It sounds like. Wow.
It was just very.
And why did you not want to stay? I think we're walking into that.
So it was, I finished that whole year. I started in August. I ended in May.
Okay.
They asked me if I wanted to do summer school, and I was just kind of...
You had to think, I don't want to be here one more day. What do you mean summer school? Like
I was very on edge. I knew I didn't want to go back to that school.
Gotcha.
But I was still in San Antonio. And I was lonely too. I had my best friend who lived like 45 minutes away, but I really didn't have anyone. I met a couple friends, but it just wasn't, it didn't feel like home. I felt like I was just in my own little world.
So you're isolated at work, and then you go home and you're still kind of isolated.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I called my dad. My dad always has answers, and as well as the Lord. So I kept praying about it. He's like, you're not going back there.
Okay.
So I called my dad and I just said, this is where I'm at. He's like, why don't you just move down for the summer? Have no plan.
And just move here and let's see where it goes.
Move here, pack a bag, pack some clothes up, leave your apartment there. Just leave it, like you don't have to break the lease or anything. Because that's another thing. My lease wasn't ending until August.
Oh, okay.
So I was in a bind. I was like, I don't know.
What am I supposed to do? Yeah.
So, and then I didn't want to spend my whole days, because I had summer off, of just sitting in my apartment, kind of
sitting in a place where you don't even want to be.
And my mental health there was you felt like completely you had to be there. On the downfall. Well,
it had to be. With what you're describing, Karley, your mental health had to be going in the wrong direction. I don't know how in the world anybody's could be climbing to a higher place with what you're describing there.
So I took my dad's advice. I packed up me and my dog, and we drove to Aledo, is where he lives.
Okay.
And I had no plan. And he is a partner with Blake Fullenwider, Archer's dad.
Okay. Archer's one of the students at our school. So
yes.
Okay.
And they were looking for a babysitter kind of full time during the summer, of picking him up or meeting at the house and just watching him at night and stuff. And so I kind of took that role a little bit.
So your dad and Archer's dad are business partners?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What do they do, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm blinking. They own Blake Fullenwider Auto Group is a
so they own like a car dealership?
Car dealership, yeah.
Oh, okay,
they have,
okay.
I don't know why I was blinking. But they have some in Clyde, Abilene, Midland.
Oh, wow.
I
So it's multiple locations.
Snyder, yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's pretty darn impressive. Wow.
They're doing very well. So, and they're amazing people as well. I thank them every single day for allowing me to have this opportunity. But
so you started keeping Archer during the summers, if it sounds like. Okay.
Yeah. So then Jamie, which is Archer's stepmom, she just asked me, she's like, well, what's your plan? And I was like, I don't have one.
Pick Archer up tomorrow, and then I don't know.
I do not have one. And she was like, well, do you want to go back to that school? And I was like, I do not. It's like, that's the last place I want to be. And she's like, well, do you want to go back to San Antonio? And I was like, I don't know. I don't have any ill towards San Antonio. It's just that school.
The Spurs are kind of okay, but I just don't want to go to that school.
Okay. Moving on. So then she was like, well, Archer goes to Green Oaks Educational Support.
Had you heard of that school at the time?
No.
Okay. Neither had I until I earlier this year found it online. Okay.
And she was like, it's a Christian-based school. It's a private school. It's awesome. Why don't you just apply? And so I was like, okay. So I go on. I think I talked to Mandy on the phone.
Hello,
I try
Mandy
to go
Green.
back. Yeah, our front desk. She has the biggest smile. Great heart.
Awesome. Yes, she is.
She answers the phone. She's like, how can I help you? And I'm like, I want to apply. And she's like, oh, well, we have our applications online, or we'll just send you an application. So I was like, okay. I waited. I think it was a couple days passed by. They finally sent me one. And I fill it out. I didn't hear anything for a couple days. So I was like, it's not it.
So what? Yeah. Where do I go now?
Yeah. And luckily, I had called my dad. I was like, I haven't heard anything. I don't know what to do. I think I'm just going to start applying to different schools that are around the area. And
so I got to make some progress. If I'm not going to hear back from them,
yeah,
I got to do something.
It was like mid-July.
Okay.
I
I got to find something. Pretty soon, nobody's going to be looking for teachers when the school year starts. So it's either this or I get a waitressing job or some other,
yeah, and I did not want to
painting walls or whatever. You got to find something, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So Blake, Archer's dad, contacted Green Oaks and was like, hey, you got an applicant. She's great. She has experience. Give her a shot.
And they could really speak to that, not just because he and your dad are business partners. You'd been helping take care of Archer all summer. So he can literally say, I don't think she might be good. I've seen her with my son, who's one of your students. That had to carry some weight.
And it's just crazy on how it is of just the souls and how much care for they have in their circle. But I didn't really know Blake, and I never met Jamie but once. I think it was at my dad and my stepmom's wedding. It was the first time I met her.
Okay.
And I didn't meet Archer until
you started taking care of him.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So, they didn't have to help.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
They could have just been like, okay, sorry that your daughter needs a job. I got to run this auto group and whatever. And I mean, you're right. That could have just gone a different way.
So, then I had my interview, and I think I was on the interview with one person, and then all of a sudden 6 different people pop up, and I was so intimidated.
6?
I was like, it was like Lee, Jean, and a couple other people.
I interviewed with 3 people at a time, but yeah, wow.
It just all at once.
All you remember is your screen starts filling up.
I was like, I literally was sitting there, I was like, oh my gosh, this is...
Like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Why? Who are you? I don't need another person.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's how I found it, and
awesome.
Very, very blessed, and I don't plan on leaving anytime soon.
So you're not giving your notice? You don't want to give your notice on camera and have them find out?
No.
Honestly, I tell people sometimes, I wake up happy to go to work every day.
Absolutely.
There may be the end of some days, the end of some weeks where I feel drained for multiple reasons that we won't go into. Yeah. But it's just, it can be exhausting because there's so much responsibility. And like, I've worked jobs that are more physical. I worked in an aluminum factory where I worked 12-hour shifts in around 1400 degree molten metal. That was a different type of tiring. What we do now is sometimes draining for different reasons, but you never know what a day is going to bring at our school. Every day is its own adventure.
Every day is different.
But I literally wake up happy to go to work every single day. I can honestly say that. That's
how I compare it to my experience in the public school.
Where you didn't wake up happy every single day.
It was a struggle. There was a couple of times I called out, I think 3 days in a row.
Wow.
And there was no reason. I wasn't sick.
It's like, I just can't deal with it
I just could not deal with it. It was a mental challenge. And every time somebody asked, what does Green Oaks have to bring? Or like, why did you choose Green Oaks?
Yeah, like, what does it mean to you? How's it impact you?
And I really, truly, and I talk about this all the time to my teacher friends that I have, it just has to do with, 1, the participants or students, 2, the staff. It's a Christian-based organization to where if you are struggling, it's not people tearing you down more, it's people stepping in, helping you, and also praying for you and wanting to find a resolution before
things get worse. Honestly, I will say that too, and I haven't been there as long, but I feel like for the most part, we all really care about each other.
Absolutely.
Like when somebody asks like, hey, how's your day, or how have you been? I feel like we all really want to know.
Yeah.
Or like if we know, and I've asked you this a few times, if I know even a little bit about you've had a challenging situation or a day or something, sometimes I'd be like, hey, how you feeling? At the end of the day, if I see you, and we all do that with each other. Sometimes it's just like,
it's like a check-in.
How you holding up? Yeah, Jacob Weedman, who the audience might know if they've been watching, he came in, I was dealing with, and I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I was dealing with the situation a couple days ago, and he came to the door, and we were just talking. He's like, looks like you're having a fun morning. I said, I'm good. I was like, I can do this all day, but thanks for, because he's like, are you okay? You need to like switch. I said, nope, I'm good, but thank you.
Yeah, that's what I really, really appreciate Jacob, because there's been, especially last year, a lot of difficulties that I went through. I was never calling on the walkie or anything. I'm just in my own little corner, but he took the time out of his day to come, and he could see it on my face, and he was like, do you need a minute? And I'm like, yes. And I just step out.
And I think we all do that for each other. Sometimes if we just, because we all know
we're in it together,
how challenging it can be. Yeah. We've got these amazing young men and women that God allows us to have interactions with in our classroom and impact and influence over. But we all know that sometimes it's exhausting. I think there's a lot of genuine care and genuine what can I do for you today amongst our staff.
People
I will definitely say that.
You feel heard, you feel seen. It's awesome.
And it's not like that
heaven.
everywhere.
It really is. No matter how difficult participants or students can
just situations in general.
It's so much better having the uplifting staff.
Well, when you go into
so rewarding.
I used to say this because I worked at 2 different Chick-fil-A's, and I loved a lot of the people I worked with in both places. And there were days where, and if you've never worked fast food, these numbers won't mean anything to you, but there were days where between like 11 a.m. and 2 p.m., we would do $3,000 per hour, sometimes $5,000 per hour. that is exhausting.
Yeah.
You got a dining room packed with guests. The drive-through line never stops coming. You're just trying to keep everybody moving. And I always address everybody as family. I didn't ever say like y'all are my team. I would say, welcome to the family. Hey, family.
Yeah.
Good morning, family. Like on all of our communication, I purposely would do that. And I use their first and last names all the time as well.
Yeah.
But I would sometimes tell them, like, thank you all for your work. And I say, I know it feels like we just went through a battle. But when you're battling side by side with people that you genuinely want to be around, I'll do it every day. I'll go into battle with all of you every day. And I feel like that at Green Oaks because there's times where life happens without a permission, right? There's times where 2 or 3 people will be sick and call out in the same day. There have been so many times where we're short-staffed, and those of us that are there are just like, okay, what can I do? Where do you need me?
We look at
Can
the
I
board,
do this? Yeah, we
and
look
we're
at
like,
but then we
but
just
we
go.
get through it.
Yeah,
It's like,
there's never been a day where we just couldn't make it. Even if there's 4 or 5 people, I feel like pretty much all of us are just like, okay, well, who can we plug here? Do you need
We
me to
don't
go
even
there?
hesitate.
What do I need to do? And we just, because we care about the school, about the students, about each other, we just make it work.
we make it work.
No matter
we
what
want
we
it to
need
work
to do.
at the end of the
Because
day.
it's almost like saying, how do we make it work? Well, because we just decided to.
Yep.
We just decided it's gonna work,
Absolutely.
and so we do it.
I think there was one day where we had, I don't even know how many absences, and I looked at the board and I was like, oh my gosh, that's so crazy.
You almost got scared and turned around and went home yourself.
I almost clocked out.
You're like, oh, have they seen me yet? Can I escape?
Can I go home? But it's just like those days seem like it's a little bit more of a breeze in a way. I don't know what it is. I feel like just because people just work so hard to fill those empty spots, either combining teams or vice versa.
Just doing whatever you have to do. Yeah,
it's just crazy.
And that's I've worked other places, and I've worked places where you can just tell nobody cares about each other. And for me, I always say, because this is the first school I've worked in.
Yeah.
And I told Lee and Jean in my interview, I said, I want to be real open, and I want y'all to know who I am and what I'm interested in. I'm not interested in working here because it's a school that happens to be a Christian school. I'm interested in working there because it's a Christian organization that happens to be a school.
Yeah.
Now, I love it, and I love what we do, but being a school was secondary to me. I was like, I don't care if we're selling light bulbs. I want to work in a Christ-centered environment where we care about each other and we put God's will and His mission first.
And I remember...
And that's what I love about it.
Yeah. I remember my trial day. I was in Kim's class. She was
Hello,
my trial
Kimberly
day.
Contreras. You probably have a different last name by the time this episode airs. She's engaged. But yeah.
I don't know what it was, but the moment I stepped foot in there, I saw Mandy Green. I saw so many people. They were just so welcoming. They put me where I needed to go. And I just felt so loved in a matter of 8 hours.
Wow.
that I haven't felt.
It's such a contrast from where you've been before. Yeah.
I remember going home one day and I was crying. I was like, wow, I hope and pray that I ended up there.
On my trial day, I was in a couple of different classrooms. Like part of the day, I was in the team that I'm in now, and then I was in Maroon team. So it was with 2 teachers that have moved on at the end of that school year. But I was with Kelly half the day and Amanda half the day, and met students in both rooms. And I literally, because I prayed that morning, God, if this is your will, just make it real clear to me. Yeah. And by lunchtime, Lee asked me to come into her office. And I already felt like if they offer me the job, I'm taking it. And just to mess with Lee, keep in mind, she had only met me in the Zoom interview the day before. I sat down with her, and she had called both my references. I found out later at this point. She had just spoken to both of them. And she says, so how's your day going? Yeah. I looked her right in the eyes without cracking a smile. Yeah. And I said, well, I was hoping that I'd really like it. But to be honest with you, I don't like it. I love it.
I knew you were going
and she goes, oh, Jared, you scared me for a moment. And then I started laughing. Because, again, she would know now. Yes. But she just met
did
me.
Not know your personality.
And I found out because she offered me the job in that conversation. So here she was hoping I'm interested because she wants to offer the job. And then I pulled that on her. So she was like, oh, she's like, Jared, you scared me for a moment. And I told her, I said, no, I love it. I've loved everything about today. I feel very comfortable here. And she then was like, I was really hoping you'd say that because I got a job offer for you. I said, let's talk. And my first official day was the very next day.
Yeah.
I was like, she's like, well, could you start? I said, yep. What time? 8 o'clock tomorrow? I said,
think
yes.
I had to, when she pulled me in, I had to keep my cool. I was so excited. I was like, please give me the job. And when she offered it to me, I was just
jumped
so
up,
happy.
did a leprechaun kick, and
I was so much joy was filled.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was so happy.
And that, I mean, how important is it really to have a job where you really love it? So many people in this world just tolerate jobs just for a paycheck. But I tell people all the time, I can make $1 doing plenty of things. I want to be somewhere where I enjoy being, somewhere where I love.
Yeah, I have to say, I think there has yet to be. No, I know there has yet to be a day where I don't hesitate or complain that I have to go to work. I don't want to go. I don't want to go. Like I had in San Antonio. And sometimes I tell like my friend that's a teacher as well because she just understands it. She used to be in SPED, but now she's in general education. But sometimes the stories that I tell her, she's like, how do you do that? How are you still sane and you have a smile on your face? Because that is crazy.
My friends ask me that. I've had several friends when I describe a normal week.
Yeah.
And what I deal with, they're just like, how? Like, I couldn't. They're like, I've had several of my friends tell me they found the right person for that job because I could not do that. Like, I couldn't. I don't know how you deal with it. And the same thing, you talk about it like you're. I said, no, I am happy. I do love it there. And they're like, okay.
So
like, that's great.
Like, every time I not complain. Every time I explain it to people that I'm talking to about, I'm not complaining. I'm just like, this is what happened.
These are the facts of what my day was or whatever, And
here I am, still on my 2 feet, and gonna go back tomorrow with a smile on my face.
I'm gonna go back happy in the morning too. Yeah, you go home happy, you go in happy, and that's just that's really the value of being in a place where you are surrounded by people that you really want to work with.
Yeah.
And there's nobody on that staff, and I know some better than others. There's nobody I wouldn't drop everything and just do whatever for. Like that's the environment there.
Very special, strong team.
You need me to do what? Okay, let me just go. Like that's
and no hesitation.
Yeah, and I've told several people like, okay, my actual assignment is in this classroom doing whatever, but the reality is
you're everywhere.
I'm an employee of this school. My job is to do what needs to be done.
You're taking care of everyone.
Yeah, I was like, I will go wherever you need me to cover. Karley's assistant's out. Let me go with her today. Yeah. Luis needs somebody. Jacob needs somebody. Oh, you want to put me on the front desk? I've never done that for a day, but okay.
I'll answer the phone.
I mean, I know how to pick a phone up and greet somebody. So I mean, literally, my outlook is if I'm here, my job is to do what needs to be done. It doesn't make a difference. I'm not gonna say like, oh, but I haven't done that, or oh, that's not my job. No, it is my job. If I'm in the building and I care about the mission of the school, then my job is to do what needs to be done. And I think we got several people like that. I'm not saying like I'm the one who does that. I think a lot of us have that outlook, and that's what makes things work so well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you said you don't want to leave Green Oaks anytime soon.
I'm nervous about this one.
These are sort of hypothetical, but I just like to get people's brains going, as you may be aware.
Yeah.
So, if you could make a living doing literally anything, what would it be? And it's okay to say staying at Green Oaks. That's an acceptable answer. But like if you could literally get paid to do anything on the planet, what do you think you'd want it to be?
I think it would have to do with special education still.
Okay.
Which is crazy, I guess. I don't know. It's just me. But I would want to go back to my small town because there's not a lot of things for special education.
Not a lot of opportunities for
intellectual disabilities.
Okay.
The person that I actually used to be a caregiver for, her mom, before I left, she was just talking all these ideas of like, I wish we could do this. Basically opening up like a recreational area for sensory stuff. Basically, it's just crazy on how it is, but basically, kind of like a Green Oaks thing.
You beat me to it. I was about to say almost incorporating at a Green Oaks school, but in a different city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where it's more applicable for those other individuals to go. Yeah.
Okay.
I really do. I don't see myself doing anything
Ever
else.
not
If I could
involved.
have like a dream job or whatever, I think it would be stay at home mom.
Okay.
I really do. But I mean,
other than stay at home mom, it's doing similar to what. Okay,
Yeah.
wow, that's awesome.
That's all that comes
And
to my
then
mind.
this is kind of similar to that, but where would you like to be, say, 10 years from now? You can say Arlington, but I mean, in life, where would you like to be?
Like living?
No, I was joking. Like, you can say Arlington, but that's not
Where I
really
would
the
like
answer
to
I'm looking
be?
for. What do you want your life to look like?
Well, I hope I
10
would be
years from
married.
now.
I hope I would have maybe a kid.
Maybe 4.
Maybe no.
It's like, Jared, don't get carried away.
Don't get me started with that one.
Maybe 1.
And just happy, healthy, and just living my
Based
life
on your other
properly.
answer, probably working in special education.
Yep.
It's in some aspect probably still.
I don't see that changing anytime soon.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Awesome.
I really feel like that's where my life would be at in 10 years.
Okay. Hey, that's awesome. If that's God's will, let's see him.
Yep.
Let's see that happen in 10 years.
Yep.
All right,
Let's see
awesome.
about
Well, thank you so much for coming by, Karley. This was
Absolutely.
been an excellent talking to you is always a pleasure,
Yeah.
but we haven't talked in front of a camera before, so
Yeah.
this was
A little bit
awesome. Thank you so much for being
Absolutely.
here.
Thank you for having me.
Very enjoyable. Oh,
Appreciate
indubitably. And thank you all so much for joining us. If you did like the episode, please show that by clicking the like button. If you've not already done so, please subscribe to the channel. It really will help enable me more than you realize to continue bringing you this type of content as well as many other types. So, for Karley Pettiet, I am Jared Johnson, the Jared J. Hope you all have a great week and hope I see you again real soon. Now, monkey bars on our plate.